Hi everyone and welcome to a new video. Now it's been a while. As I said, I've just enjoyed being on summer break and didn't really feel like uploading anything. But now I have some spare time where I didn't really know what to do, and thought I would film because I've seen some of those mid-year tags and wrap-ups and things like that, and wanted to do something similar. Not going to do any of the tags or like that type of thing, not because I don't enjoy them or anything, just because I want to do something a little bit different. So I grabbed my little notebook where I write down all the books I've read in a month, so I can talk you through all the books I've read up to June. That's the period I'm going to look at, so the first half of the year. Then I will also update you on my vacation and stuff like that, and what I will bring for it book-wise, and yeah, just chat about that a bit at the end of the video. But first I will talk to you about the books I've read so far this year. I will not give any star ratings or like list them as favorites because that's not how I categorize them anymore. So I will just let you know how and why I enjoyed them or not. So in January I started with poetry, as every good year of reading should start if you're into poetry. And I've read Hughes' collection The Hawk in the Rain. I really enjoyed that. In retrospective, I think I enjoyed it a little less than when I've read it, but it still was a great collection that has a lot of things worth thinking about. Though I have to say I enjoy Birthday Letters the most out of his work I've read so far. But it was still a very enjoyable and thought-provoking read. I reviewed at the beginning of the year, I pretty much reviewed every book I've read, so I will link my review playlist in the description. But for this one I also did an analysis video on the poem Thought Fox, which is in this collection, so I will also separately link that one in the description. Then I continued with Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea, and the same as with the collection of poetry, The Hawk and the Rain. I enjoyed it more when I've read it. I still think it's a brilliant book. It just didn't stay with me as much as when I've read it. But I think it's something everyone should read, and I personally think that I enjoyed it a lot also because of the personal connection I felt, which you can hear more about in my review on that book. But I think it's just a story that everyone has to read at one point in their life. I won't say that it's a collection. It's a story that everyone will enjoy equally, but I think it's something you will have to have read at some point in your life. And for me, it was a very enjoyable read, and I enjoyed it immensely. Then I continued with some graphic novels from the same series, and that's the I Hate Fairyland graphic novel series. And those books are just a treasure. I really enjoy them. They are very fun, full of pop culture references. Obviously a twist on the whole fairy tale story in a way that it is very accessible but also unique in some way, and definitely something you will enjoy if you are a fan of graphic novels, but also if you want to get into graphic novels more. I would definitely recommend picking up this graphic novel. Also, if you enjoy your occasional pop culture reference, if done well, and in here, in my opinion, it is done well. Then the last book I've read in January is The Lost Honor of Katharina Blum by Heinrich Böll. This was a reread for me. I've read it once or twice before that, one time for sure for class. And as I mentioned in my review, it was quite an influential book on me personally. And this reading like reinforced that feeling, and I could look at it through the eye of a reader that grew more critical, and I still enjoyed it, maybe even more this time around. It was definitely a very impactful, important read, and one that again I would recommend everyone to read, for the theme, but also for the craft of writing itself. So yeah, I definitely plan to read some more Böll in the future. Then February, starting January, I think, I read Your Silence Will Not Protect You by Audre Lorde. I've buddy read this book with my friend Helene over at Books by Lanes. I will therefore link her channel as well in the description box. And this was again a very, I can say, influential read. It taught me a lot, and a lot of new things, and a lot of things that I have not considered before. Obviously changing my privilege and my privileged position, but also giving me a perspective I would not necessarily be familiar with. So I appreciate it a lot. Even though I did not agree with everything she said in this book, it was still something that you will read and get a lot out of it, even though you don't agree completely with her. And then I continued with some graphic novels, and I read the 2 volumes currently out in the Pretty Deadly series, and I adore this graphic novel series a lot. It's sort of a Western graphic novel, but with a little bit of a twist. A lot of the characters are personifying, for example, death, love, hope, despair. The war is tackled especially in volume 2, and I think it could be a bit difficult to get into it when you are not familiar with graphic novels, but story-wise, I mentioned that in my review that I would enjoy the book as much as a book as I did enjoying it as a graphic novel. So that was like the main selling point for me, to be able to say that I've enjoyed it as much as I did, because the story was just so compelling to me. And I'm sorry if the light gets a bit weird. It was actually sunny outside and now it's getting darker, but we will ignore that. Then I continued with a little bit more of poetry, and I read Rainer Brambach's collected poems. I did sort of a discussion on that, or sparked by that, regarding translations of poetry, but also works of fiction in general, and how that can influence its reading, because this collection focuses a lot on the rhythm of certain words that are oftentimes only used in Swiss German or German, and I discussed there a little bit how that may influence the translation. Then I continued with my first Bret, Easton, Ellis, because Rachel has been telling me about it. I will link Rachel's channel in the description box as well. She has been telling me about him for ages, and I want to read his work in chronological order, and I've read and really enjoyed Less Than Zero, and therefore I'm looking forward to the rest of his work. And yeah, if Rachel says it's good, it has to be good, because she knows her shit, and she is intelligent enough to know what she needs to say to sell a book to me. So I will sure enjoy the rest of his work. Then I ended the month with a poetry collection, and that's the Hungry Ghost Festival by Campbell, and it's always great to end the month with some poetry, so that was great. March started really exciting with the new Peter Stamm. I'm not sure if it's already translated, I will look it up, but I don't think so. But it's the sanfte Gleichgültigkeit der Welt by Peter Stamm, and I was really excited about it, because if your favorite author comes out with a new work, that's always like something really exciting. And I was not disappointed. It was incredible. I was a little bit like shook, as the cool kids say, because it is sort of a meta fiction. I also will link you to a blog post I did regarding that topic, where I explore it a little bit more in regards of this book. But it has been a very enjoyable read, even not looking at like the meta aspect. It has been an enjoyable read in itself, but it has a lot of moments where it pulls on Peter Stamm's own life, but also on the story of Agnes. And Agnes is, if I should pick, probably one of my favorite books of all time, so that's always exciting. So yeah, then I've read We All Fall Down, and I think there's a question about your biggest surprise in those tags, and I think this is definitely my biggest surprise. We All Fall Down is written by a fellow YouTuber called Sarah Courtney. I will link her channel in the description as well. And it's a teen YA novel about Tara and her story and her struggle. I don't want to say too much, but it looks at family dynamics, destructive family dynamics, love, friendship, loss, those things, and in a very sensitive and very emotional still way. And the first love triangle that actually works out, because it's not written as this cliche we know it. It is genuinely a struggle of the main character, and it's so much more than those typical love triangles, and it ends up being a lot more. And it was a very surprising novel. I did a whole reading vlog dedicated to it. So yeah. Then I read the graphic novel Voyeurs, I think, by Gabrielle Böll, if I remember correctly. Everything will be linked down below. It was alright. It was good enough that I would consider picking up something by the author in the future, but nothing that blew me away. But it was a good in-between read. Yeah. Then I read As Like Lighthouses When the Boats Come Home, by a fellow booktuber, Dane, over at Dane Reads, therefore his channel will be linked in the description. I really enjoyed this collection of poetry. It was very rhythmic, great topics explored, a lot of variety, but you can still sense a theme throughout the collection, and it's very well crafted all around. So I massively enjoyed reading this collection. Then in April I've read the, also I think it would be considered YA fiction, I Love You Too Much. And this is another surprise of mine. I really enjoyed this book. There has been a lot of hype around it when I picked it up, which is unusual because I tend to step back from that and read it in a later date. So I was a little bit scared that the hype will like influence my reading experience, but it was a really good, very emotional, impactful, powerful read, and I would definitely recommend this book as well to all those who are a little bit skeptical of the genre. It was very worth checking out. Then I continued with another poetry collection, and that's You Said Feminist by Megan Beach. And it was a very great one as well. Lots of awesome themes, very empowering, very current, and really, it was really refreshing to see a young poet with that amount of substance behind her poetry. I really enjoyed that. Then I continued with another graphic novel, and that's the 4th volume of the Sex Criminals series, and this one is with the title 40, which is an awesome title, and I've really enjoyed it. I've not really enjoyed it. I loved volume 1. Volume 2 was a bit meh. Volume 3 not so much, but I've really enjoyed volume 4, and I'm looking forward to continue the series. It definitely went up there. Then my crime binging started. I've been really into crime investigator, those type of books, which you will see also later on. Therefore, I binge read the whole Hunkeler series, which is a crime series written by a Swiss author set in Switzerland and in Basel, if you know Basel. And I've read all 9 books in a row. It was one of the greatest reading experiences I ever had. It was great. I really enjoyed it. It really is something. Again, I would not be sure if it would work in translation, but I just absolutely adored it, and it's up there. It's one of those comfort reads, and my mom is currently reading the series as well, because I've like literally pushed those books onto her because I really enjoyed it. I have the autobiography by the author here, and I definitely want to read that very soon. So yeah, then I continued reading a little bit more non-fiction, and that is a collection of essays on mini biographies that was gifted to me by my mother, called Ich lebe zu schreiben. Why was that with an American or English accent? Ich lebe zu schreiben. It's so difficult if you have to switch between languages. Which looks at different women, female authors, more specifically, and looks at their writing, their life, the obstacles they had to face, and all those stuff, and introduced me to a whole new range of female authors, which is always great. Then I read another poetry collection that's called When You Say One Thing But Mean Your Mother by Melissa Broder. I love her essay collection So Sad Today. I adore it. She's in the news with her first novel about the merman. I will also link that down below. I don't know how to pronounce the the book about the mermaid. I have no clue, I'm sorry. She's in the news with that. This poetry collection, however, I did not really enjoy. It just was nothing special, nothing groundbreaking, nothing truly moving, so no, not really. Then I continued with graphic novels and read Giant Days Volume 1. And my life has been changed ever since. I've since read all of them in July, all of them out currently. No, not in July, in June. And like, I'm so addicted to this series. And it's nothing like groundbreaking. It's looking at this group of friends, group of 3 young women and their university experience. But it's like this is my Netflix, you know. It's great. Definitely also recommend it for people who want to get into graphic novels. Then in May, I've read A Spy in the House of Love by Ernest Hemingway, and I've read this because it's part of the Patreon exclusive book club Angelica hosts. I will link Angelica in the description as well. And wow, this was a very fantastic novel. I will link all the things I did. I did sort of my first looking at themes in a book series or video on that book, and I've read since My Cousin Rachel for the book club. I've read that as an audio, and just finished Agnes Grey, also as an audiobook. Like, not just, but like the first half. No, I will have to check when I read it, but about one week ago I think I finished it, and really enjoyed that one as well. So it's been a success, really. Yeah, and then I read And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, which is my first Christie. Really enjoyed it, even though it was a little bit your cliche crime first, but I really enjoyed the concept of this novel, and I'm looking forward. We have a lot of Agatha Christie down here, so I look forward to that, and it was part of my whole reading crime fiction craze. Then I read Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. I did a series on that where I went through my annotations, so I will link that down below. There's so much to link. Oh, I always hate that so much. But I will link it down below. And yeah, it's basically her memoir about her time of traveling in Italy, India, Bali, or Indonesia. Really enjoyed that one. It was a reread. I read it as a teeny tiny teen, so I didn't really remember all too much, but I really enjoyed it. There was some aspect I was a little bit about, but that's just personal preference. But again, for more thoughts, check out the series in the description. Then I read a short, quick one of the Penguin Black Classics. I read a collection of Oscar Wilde's quotes, which is called Only Dull People Are Brilliant at Breakfast. And Oscar Wilde is always like, you can always enjoy Oscar Wilde. So that was great. Then I've read, if I have to pick, probably my favorite book of the year so far, and that's The Blue Girl by Laurie Hughes. I since ordered 2 of her other books because I enjoyed The Blue Girl so much. There's also a series on The Blue Girl, looking at the themes discovered in it. Then June started with probably my flop of the year. It's a novella sort of called Sommerleben. It was shit. It was a collection of like letters, and it was really, I did not enjoy it. It was a lot of whining and moaning and privileged people moaning about shit. I did not enjoy it. And then, as I said, I read volume 2 through 6 of the Giant Days graphic novel series, which was great. Then I read probably my second favorite book of the year, Die Frauen der Tafelrunde by Kylie Fitzgerald. I think, or Fitzpatrick, I don't know. It will be linked. Which is a historical fiction. I mentioned it in one of my vlogs, therefore I will have to link that one down below as well. Yeah, I've read that. It's a historical fiction surrounding Elizabeth Woodville. And since then I ordered 3 non-fictions about Elizabeth Woodville. Yeah, we will just move on. I apparently also am in a not non-fiction, historical fiction craze, which you will see later. Yeah, then I read Beautiful Malice, it's called in English. I've read it in German, called Die Wahrheit über Ellis by Rebecca James. This was also sort of a reread, but I was not sure if I actually read it in my teens, because those years are a blur. But yeah, I've read that. It's sort of a mystery thriller type of book, and I actually really enjoyed it. It was quite entertaining, so that was great. Then I read John Berger's collected poems, and it was a true blessing. And if you are into poetry, even if you are not into poetry, please pick up this collection. It was great, really great. Then I picked up Utopia. It was boring. I did not enjoy it at all. I can see its importance for the genre of utopian fiction, but it was more of a product of its time for me, and it was not good. Then I read Giant Days Volume 7. Currently desperately waiting for, first of all, the novel based on the graphic novel series to come out, but also the next volume of the graphic novels. Then something happened. I discovered Ionescu. Celia, if you watch this, have I said it remotely correct? She told me that this O at the end is our Ö. So I hope I said it right. But I started his Harihole. I'm trying, okay? Series, and read the first 2 books in June. And they are great. I love them. And everyone said, well, the first 2 ones are actually his weakest and it will only get better. I'm like, but listen, I've enjoyed those immensely. Like, it was good. Like, I really enjoyed it. So if it only gets better, oh boy. And in between that, I read a poetry collection called Sex, Love and Rock and Roll, which is also great. I would actually compare it to Dane's, sorry, Dane's collection. Even though I have to say, theme-wise, Dane's one, the collection by Dane was stronger in my opinion, but like from the rhythm within the poems, I would compare those two. Then I read My Life by Marc Chagall. Yes, the Marc Chagall. It's his autobiography looking at the first half of his life. He got quite old. It was a mess, more than anything, really. I think I will look for a biography because this was a mess. It was just like snippets and not really working well together. It was a mess. It was sometimes beautifully written, but it was mostly a mess. So there's that. Now on to my holidays or vacation, whatever you want to call it. I will be leaving for Italy on Friday for 1 week. Then I will come home for 1 week and then I will go back for 1 week. It's just how it has been for the last 3 years, because we went down for 1 week 3 years ago. We usually went there we started with 1 week, then we started going for 2 weeks. Then it was a little bit of a letdown and we just had 1 week booked then, and then we realized, wow, it was brilliant. So we made an effort to go back there, and then we realized, oh, it makes it feel longer, but now we are deciding on which weeks to choose next year so we can go 2 consecutive weeks. But for now we're going to do that. Like this. It's our 14th year going to the same city, and it is brilliant every 14 years, and it's something different every time. And before you leave a comment of I could never go to the same place 40 years in a row, you can maybe, I will pack soon, so you can pack your knowledge and put it in a suitcase, just as I put my clothes and stuff in a suitcase, so I can take your opinion with me and abandon it on the streets where it belongs. Because yeah, I don't need comments looking at my vacation choices or life choices in general. And if you are someone who has to judge other people's life choices, you should probably consider your own life choices. I get that a lot, and I know Celia is currently actually in Paris, also for quite a while. She's going there, and she knows she knows those comments, and she knows the feeling of knowing exactly why you go there. And don't you worry, I still see the rest of the world in all the other weeks. It's just 2 weeks. I have 50 weeks left to see the rest of the world, so don't you worry. But it's just something that annoys me and I don't really want to deal with, so keep that to yourself. Yeah, maybe just don't judge other people's life choices. But yeah, we're going to be at the beach eating delicious food. there are some changes, like new rules the town set up, which are a little bit weird, but we'll see. We will not let that affect us. It's going to be great. We know for the second week that some friends of ours are going to be down there as well, because there's a dance camp for competitive dancing, which is always also a ride. Like last year was just a wreck, because they are very special people, those competitors going to this training camp there. And last year there were like some crazy ones there that had the feeling, because they went to the trainings the whole day. They had to stay up late making noise and people wanted to sleep. But we will see. But it's great to know that some friends are going to be there as well. And so yeah, I wanted to show you what I will be taking with me in regards of reading. So I will take with me On the Road by Jack Kerouac. I thought it would be fun if I read On the Road when I'm on the road. That's basically the reason for that. Yeah, okay. But it's also been on my TBR for far too long, so there's that. Then I will be picking up something very cliche for a summer holiday, and it's not a crime. I've noticed that a lot of people read crime on the beach, but I decided not to and leave my crimes here. But I will pick up a tickle book. This is looking at this couple, Evie and Alexander, and they are in a relationship, but they struggle a little bit, especially Evie's tendency to consider other men, much to Alexander's, like, he doesn't really enjoy that. Obviously he's in a relationship with her, so they go to, or she goes to, a therapy session and is therefore transported back in time by accident, and so far back in time that we are in paradise with Adam and Eve. So we are looking at what really went down there, and I love those retellings. I've read one a while back, and then I pick historical fiction because and it's a chunker, so I'm sure I have enough to read. And this is a book by looking at Eleonore von Aquitania, Eleanor from Aquitania. She was a very important figure, and the book I've read recently, Die Frauen der Talferrunde, mentions her a few times, and she was also very important for the art and all the bards back then. So I'm really looking forward to read that. My mother has already read this one. She is very into her historical fiction and she enjoyed this one immensely. So yeah, it's been a long video. Maybe you've like went off and did something else. That's probably what I would have done, and just listen to me in the background. But you probably just sticked around to see my beautiful face, and I understand that, honestly. Sorry. But yes, I might vlog or might not during my vacation, probably not, but make sure to follow me on my Instagram and my Twitter. I will also link that in the description. It's also linked in my profile for picture and stuff. And I hope it's not going to be a wreck, or I will not be a wreck, but I will keep you updated. So yes, thanks for watching, and let me know if you plan to go anywhere this summer, what you're currently reading, and how you've been, how your reading year has been so far. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you when I see you. Bye. Thanks for watching again.